Hello everyone and welcome to this week's quilt. This week the quilt I'd like to share with you is the Wonderwoman quilt. Not what I was expecting to make, but let me tell you the story of this one. So it began in November, mid-November of 2024, and I was out shopping with my son. And he said to me, have you thought about what you'd like to get me for his birthday in January? Well, it's quite a big birthday. It was his 40th. And I had thought I might get a nice watch, like I did with his older brother. And he said, preempting me, I don't really want a watch or anything like that. I said, oh, okay, what do you want? And he said he would like a quilt. Well, straight away I said, oh yes, definitely, I'll make you a quilt. And I was thinking of all these spectacular possibilities of designs that there could be. And he says, oh, I'm not quite sure. So I said to him, let's go over to the fabric store. You can have a wander around, choose the fabric you'd like, and then we'll think about a design. So he said, okay. So we went in, and I didn't want to influence him at all with his choice of fabric. So I said, there you go, off you go, and I'll wander somewhere else. So after a while, I saw him with some bolts of fabric in his hand. So I thought, perhaps this is a good time to go over and see how things are progressing. They did have a good selection of Star Wars fabric, and he was a fan, still is. He likes Star Wars sci-fi films, and I thought I wouldn't be surprised if they were something like that. When I went over, he had two bolts of fabric under his arm, a red one, a red background, Wonderwoman, this one, and he also had a grey one, same design but with a grey background. And I said, oh, I don't think your wife, Karen, would appreciate that in the bedroom. Are you sure? You know, Wonder Woman. And he said that it wasn't for the bedroom. It was to go in, or the lounge. It was to go in his office. He works from home. He's got the black leather sofa where he and the dog have snuggle breaks during his work day. And he said he'd like it to go on there. So I said, oh. So he said he could have anything he wanted. He didn't have to worry about the decor in other rooms. Fine. So I had a look and I said, oh, Wonder Woman. And he says, yes, this is what I want. This is what I like. I said, okay. Just the two? And he went, oh, I don't really like the grey one. So I said, no, put it back then and have a look. And I thought, he could have picked out some of the solid colours. There was yellow and black and red and grey even. Perhaps have some solids to go with that if that's the main feature. And then he said, yeah, you know, he doesn't hide his feelings. So he wasn't keen, I could tell. So so then he said, I only really like this one. I just want one. And I said, well, you can have a whole quilt, a whole cloth quilt. You can just have one piece of fabric. You don't have to piece it. My heart was sinking. I was thinking, don't go for that option. But he did. So he said, oh, can you? I said, yeah, okay. So I said, you just want just red. You just want Wonder Woman. He said, yes. Okay. I thought I might get a little board around the outside or something. And then he said, I said, oh, I just need to get the backing and the batting. And he said, oh, I don't want any backing or batting. He said, I don't want it too heavy. He says, I just like, you know, like a fluffy blanket on the back. And I said, you just mean like a throw? And he says, yeah, that's it, just that. And they did have some fabric in there, but it wasn't very nice. So he says, yeah, that sort of thing, I'd like that. And so I said, okay, leave it with me and I'll give you a quilt on your birthday. And that's how we left it. So I knew it wouldn't take me very long to make the quilt, and I had a look around for some fleece. Couldn't really find any nice fleece in the shops, and so I ordered this little pack from Amazon it was. I think it was about £15, not very expensive at all. And I thought that'll do the job, because, you know, it's not going to be a precious heirloom blanket. The dog will scratch and they'll screw it all over each other, and it'll be a hard-worn quilt, and it'll be in and out of the washing machine all the time. And it said it was anti-pilling on both sides, ideal for lounging at home and camping and long journeys. So I thought that's perfect for his needs. And when I opened up the blanket, it had rounded corners, so I thought I'm just going to do a rectangular throw. And so I cut off the ends just to square it up, and then I joined the two pieces of the Wonderwoman fabric together, ironed that flat as a base, put that out, and then I just laid the blanket on top and left enough of the Wonderwoman fabric overhanging each side all the way around, so that I could fold it back on itself and make a self-binding blanket. And then I just took some safety pins and I pinned all the way around the edge of the blanket, keeping it nice and flat. And in my sewing basket I had some thread. It seems to have like a wax coating on. I'll show you the two spools of an ordinary thread and the waxed coated thread. So it's thicker. There's no sizes on it, no makes. I don't know where it is, but it's really strong. You can't break it by tugging it. And so I thought what I would do is I'll just put a couple of stitches together, secure the blanket and the backing like you would a buttonhole stitch. So just up and down a few times, and then through the other side. I didn't want to put buttons on because I thought the dog might chew those. I didn't want to put ties on because I thought he might get his claws caught in those. And so just a couple of stitches, that was the plan. I don't do very much hand quilting. I think I would enjoy that if I had the time. I get so carried away with piecing all the time. But yeah, I did enjoy just sitting and doing some slow stitching on that, although it wasn't very neat. I can embroider. I don't do it very often, but these were robust. That's what these stitches were for. And I just needed to have a needle threader just to help get the twine through the eye of the needle. And I found sewing it really, really relaxing. I mean, I only put a row of stitchings all the way around the outside of the edge, but it was really a nice thing to do. I really enjoyed it. And so all I did was to put the stitches one row hand width apart. You couldn't see the stitch that I'd already done. It was hidden by the fleece. And so I just used a span of my hand, found the next place to put a couple of stitches, or quite a few really, about 6 to 8 I think I went in and out, and just went up through both layers a few times and then brought it back across the front. So you can't see those stitches at all. You can feel them, but you can't see them. So if you look closely here, I'll just point out where the 2 stitches are, and you can just make out that there is a row of grey stitches. So the blanket, when I unfolded it, had some distinct creases in, and so I just thought I'll use those. I hadn't washed it first. I thought I'll finish the blanket before I wash it, and then I will just follow the creases top to bottom a few times. I think I put 3 or 4 rows of grey stitching on the machine onto it, just to make sure it didn't sort of flap about. And so on this image you can just see where I completed the self-binding. So I just trimmed off the red fabric and pressed it in half, turned it over, did a little mitered corner on the corners, and then just machine stitched that. So on the very edge and then on the outside edge, just to make it a little bit stronger. But yeah, that was it, finished. And when I received the blanket from Amazon, it had this quite sturdy strapping holding it all together, and it was velcroed, and so I thought I'll use that, and I folded up the blanket, put that back, the label on top, so that you could see all the washing instructions. And then I gifted it to my son with some other things, and he was very pleased with it. He said it did the job, just exactly what he wanted. So he said he wasn't going to share it with the dog, but I know that won't last. He will. He'll be cuddling up with the dog and the blanket. So that was this week's quilt. So that's the Wonderwoman quilt, and I had intended to share a fabric haul with you this week, but it still hasn't arrived. If you live in the UK and are waiting for rainbow fabric supplies from Christmas, please let me know. It was the 27th of December when I ordered, quite a big order, and it just says online that it's unfulfilled, the order, and it just says to bear with them, but I'm beginning to get a sneaky doubt creep in my mind that it might not arrive now, so we'll see. But I'm just carrying on and making quilts or quilt tops with the material I have. You can see here I'm working on a tulip quilt. It's be a nice spring quilt. A little bit complicated. I've broke it down, so I think you might enjoy this one. Those blocks are 20.5 inches, so once you've put the smaller pieces together, it's growing now. So there's that. Next week I will share with you, it's the 1st of February next week, so happy birthday fellow Aquarians that are out there, and I will share with you next week a lovely Valentine's quilt that's quite easy to put together, and it's come out really lovely. And if you've got any 2.5 inch strips in pinks and whites and reds, you could make it in any colour actually. If you've got any greens and you want to celebrate St Patrick's Day, you could use it in that. That would look nice. But anyway, that's it for this week, and short and sweet again. I hope you're all right. If you live in the UK, happy Burns Night in Scotland, and I hope that these high winds don't spoil it. And if you live in Australia, happy Australia Day, and you've got just the opposite in weather. You've got some lovely warm sunshine. And the America, you've got a bit of everything, haven't you? Canada, you're cold and snowy. Enjoy your sewing, whatever the weather throws at you. Enjoy your sewing, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye.